Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Lotus Life podcast. My name is Kim Fisher. Today's topic is inspired by the recent yoga retreat that I led. And what I kept hearing again and again as we sat around the campfire, as we talked after our morning practices, was how do we work with, how do we accept family members and friends who are not on the spiritual path? How do I build tolerance and compassion? How do I even relate? And there was even a tone of how do I get them on my side too, because as yoga practitioners, as spiritual practitioners, our spirituality can be like that shiny new toy that we find sometimes. Where we're like, look, I got this cool thing and it fixes everything and and you're broken and I know it because I used to be there. I can relate. So I want to help you. I think it was Swami Satchidananda who said, you can never help anyone, you can only serve them. Because help means I'm up here, you're down there. I see you, I see that you're broken, I see that you need to be fixed, so let me bring you up to my level where you're not broken, you don't need to be fixed, you're solved. Whereas serving someone is this path of, I don't need to change you, I want to just hear your story. I want to actually sit down on the ground with you or put on my muck boots and get in the mud with you. And I want to exist with you in the state that you're in. And it's from that heart-centered space where we don't need to fix the other person, that we can thrive with them. We connect through the heart, we connect with love. And it's usually in those moments that family members and friends actually start to feel safe, and they start to see that they have options, and they start to feel that they're not alone because they have you walking shoulder to shoulder with them. That's when we can start to see change in people. So it's not so much that we need to help them, even though that feels good and that's our intention, and it feels so good to say, yeah, I want to help people. Like that's such a commendable thing, and we say it all the time in our culture. But really what we're saying when we say I want to help you is that I know the way, and that my way is the best way. And I've solved my problems, and I'm going to assume that you have the same experience of those problems subjectively, which is wrong. How could that ever be? We can't assume that someone is experiencing a problem the same way. Like I get a parking ticket, I have money to pay that. I'm not going to stress. Someone else really suffering, doesn't have a lot of money right now because they're feeding their kids, they're going back to school, etc. They get a parking ticket, they're going to be incredibly stressed and might even cry. Same problem, different reaction. Why? Because we're two different people. So even though something worked for me, solved my problems in the past, and I look and I see a family member or a friend who is telling me of a similar problem, and you're like, oh man, I just went through that, I should probably give them my recipe for success and help them. What we have to remember is that is still an individual, and that is still a person who potentially and probably is experiencing the problem very uniquely. And yes, our solutions will probably ease their burden, but it doesn't mean it's an exact fit for them. And so we have to be careful of, putting on our captain's hat and our whistle as like a referee, and then, tossing out life preservers every time someone says, hey, I'm suffering. We're so afraid of suffering as a culture. Suffering is ultimately the greatest teacher. It is ultimately the greatest uniter too, because when we are suffering as a culture, as a country, we come together. Think of tsunamis, think of earthquakes. These are horrible things that happen. But what happens as a result is that people come together. We help, we bring in resources, we pick up the pieces, we find missing people, we find and rescue animals and pets, we console, we suffer across the entire world, we send in resources, we send in money, right? Like suffering is the direct path to the heart and to love. So it's not bad. It's another state of being. Yet we try to push and push it away from ourselves, and then we try to push it away from other people and fix. So this past retreat, and I'm not going to give any names or any identifying qualities because I respect the privacy of everyone that came on retreat, and it's such a sacred space. But this was a topic that came up a lot, and I know those of you who are listening are potentially working through the same thing. Have a little sip of my coffee. Okay. So there's the difference between helping and serving, right? Helping is saying, I'm up here, you're down there, I will fix you, you're welcome. Which doesn't always work. Now, serving means I see you, I hear you, I love you. Let me meet you where you are. And I'm not going to try to fix you. You know what? I'm just going to show up and I'm going to listen. I'm going to listen and I'm going to hold the space for you. And you're not broken. I declare that with my body, with my presence. I show up for you, and I am actually going to love on you so hard in your misery right now and your suffering, because and I'm showing up actually thankful because I know that your suffering is a vehicle that I can ride into your heart and mind. And so I'm not gonna pull away from that. I'm actually going to be like willing and ready because I know it's medicine. And because those of you that are listening, if you're on the path, you're doing hatha yoga, you're doing your pranayama, you're doing your own personal practice, you're building quite a strong container for yourself where you can hold your shadow. And the whole point of that is that you can hold space and for others' shadows as well. And we can be that leader who doesn't try to fix, but instead holds space for, so that ultimately the person that's suffering realizes that they are their own teacher. They hold the power for their own transformation. They hold the elixir to heal and cauterize their wounds. You show them that by holding the space for them, and you become like this sound, like an echo chamber, where you repeat back what they say, you listen with love, and they're going to feel that, right? Because we're human beings. We can feel what's up with other people. We can feel intention. We can feel authenticity. We can feel bullshit. We're so good with that. Like pre-verbal shit, you guys. You don't need to say anything most of the fucking time. Just show up. Be with the moment as it is and watch people change as a result. Being on the yogic path and obtaining wisdom isn't meant to then become a weapon. You don't want to go around then, as Deborah Adele says from the Yamas and the Niyamas, chopping heads off with truth, because you're going to look around at some point and go, where the fuck did everyone go? I used to have all these friends. Now, some of that might be because you're transforming and you're growing, and your circle should change because change means expansion, and expansion means different dimensions and different areas of your life, etc. But sometimes we find that new shiny toy of spirituality and we yield it as a weapon because we have this truth We have this power, and it is a truth, and it is a power, and discernment is a weapon, but we have to use it on our path. We cannot use our spirituality selfishly to think that we can fix other beings. Now, this is really, really hard with family members, isn't it? I know all of you listening and watching. I'm also for the first time recording this too, so I can put it on YouTube, just trying a couple different modalities here. Those of you listening, those of you watching, you all have a family member or two and a friend or two who was like zero fucks given for the spiritual world. And like, you know, that friend who's like, you know, you come back from yoga retreat and they're like, how was it? Did you have good weather? And you're like, inside, you're like, oh my God. I sat around a campfire, bawled my eyes out with 13 to 14 other women, and they held the space for me and echoed back what I needed to hear. And I healed deep wounds. I also discovered new wounds. I ate incredible food, which then cleared up a lot of congestion at a cellular level. I communed in nature. Like I saw my ancestral spirit and blah, 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 on and on, you know, but you go, oh, the weather was so great. Yeah, it was nice. Nice to be outdoors. And there's nothing wrong with that person. There's nothing wrong with them just asking the super. They don't know. If they've never been on a yoga retreat, never been in a yoga class, why the hell would they know? They don't have a clue about what you just experienced. And that's okay. That's totally fine, right? I'm sure they have something that they do that you've never done, and you don't know what the hell to ask. And they're like, God, they never asked me about that. I can't go deep with them because, right, they're always into that yoga. But we have to know that that's okay. I had a post on social media not too long ago that was like, not everyone has to be in your boat to float down the river. And what I mean by that is exactly that. Like, you can have people in your life that aren't yogis. I used to be married to someone for 9 years who gave a rat's ass about yoga. Like, I think on occasion showed up, but definitely was pretending to be into the scene, you know, to support his wife. and you know, props to my ex for that, because like that probably was pretty uncomfortable and difficult for him, but he was showing up anyhow. But I remember being very grateful on some levels that my ex was not completely into yoga, because I didn't want my life to be all mantra and all about the scriptures and all about, like, some people are so deep into yoga that like you need a break from it to reacclimate and to adjust to, you know, your everyday life. So it was great. Now I'm with a partner who is a beautiful balance. He gets it. He shows up. He respects it. He will practice yoga with me. He runs the yoga retreats with me, but he doesn't identify as a yogi like I do. He has his own identification, his own space, but he loves so greatly and is so curious that he's willing to try on any hat and make it work. So we do not need people to be spiritual in order to be spiritual. Let's remove the label for a second. What are people without labels? And I guess that's a whole nother podcast. So I'm just going to nip that in the bud right there, because that's about to get really existential and I want to keep this grounded for you. So how do we step forward not wanting to fix other people? Because that's really what we're saying, right? Like, I see my family member, I see my friend freaking suffering like crazy, or they drive me nuts that they're always stuck in this pattern. And if I just told them about non-attachment, or if I just, you know, for Christmas, I think I'm going to get everyone The Yamas and the Niyamas by Deborah Adele, which, by the way, is an incredible book. You absolutely should get that for yourself, you know, or, gosh, the next time they bring that up, I'm going to tell them this whole spiritual Buddha stuff, and then that'll fix them. The problem is that, as Tony Robbins says, they don't meet your blueprint. You have an expectation of people. You have an expectation of yourself, but you absolutely have an expectation about your friends, your family, your coworker, your spouse, your children, etc. Everyone around you needs to fit your blueprint. Think about the people that you like, that you don't want to change. That like, I love being around these people so much. Think about like one person. I love being around them so much. Why do you love being around them? If you're in a spot right now where you can write that down, please do so. If you're driving or whatever, or walking your dog, just reflect on that for a second, or maybe pause me. Think about that one person you love to be around, and then why do you love to be around them? Think about an activity that you love in your life. Why do you love that activity? Because it's easy for you? Because you don't feel any resistance? Because you're comfortable? Why are you comfortable? Why don't you feel any resistance? Because it matches your expectations, right? Things that match our expectations, things that we feel prepared to work with and deal with, things that we have figured out already, we feel comfortable with. The brain doesn't perceive it as a threat. It doesn't put us in a comfortable space where we need to kind of be guessing our way through it. And it doesn't settle, it doesn't land. Like people that you feel really comfortable with, oh my goodness, you're like, we're of one mind. I think like you, I feel like you, I even dress like you. We even love the same coffee, right? Like there's so much similarity that you feel like they are an extension of you. So we feel comfortable. They match our expectations. They match that blueprint. So when something doesn't fall into our expectation, our plan, our blueprint, it's uncomfortable. We don't like it. We don't like it means we want to fix it to the point where we like it. This is where a larger yogic concept comes in of holding space. And I go into this, I have a course that I led before. I'm probably going to lead it again around the holidays because it's incredible and powerful and very useful, which is part of my mission. I want to make yoga actually useful for you in your modern life. But holding space, by the way, you can check that all out on my website, and just dive deeper into that, or look for the upcoming live course again in later this year called Holding Space. When you hold a posture on the mat and the legs are on fire, bridge pose, Setu Bandhasana, is there a moment where you want to exit the pose, but the teacher is still asking you to hold it? Yes. And that's wonderful. We need to meet the moments that the body says, please quit, and go a little bit beyond safely so that we build muscle. Also, we build mental muscle. We build tapas. Tapas means friction. Tapas is austerity. Tapas is discipline. We need mental rigor and discipline in order to know that we will not die because we hold something that's uncomfortable. We literally have to tell our preverbal antiquated brains, you guys, it's like really old hardware that our software is running on. Our neurons, the structure of our brain is really old. And it's wired still for fight or flight. Like, is that thing going to kill me or not? So we literally are reacting on the mat, like the posture, like bridge pose is going to kill us. That's why there's that quick fight or flight of like, oh my gosh, we should probably exit this pose. It's uncomfortable, you might die. But then no, presence, higher mind, consciousness, witness consciousness overrides and says, okay, chill, breathe. You're fine. You've been here before. You've been here before in a moment that was really awkward or uncomfortable. And we always discover, don't we, that the first reaction is please exit, please fix, right? Exiting is a form of fixing, remedy, okay? Reconciliation. But we also know that there's benefit to sticking it out. to holding a little bit longer, because that's what makes you stronger. And then this really cool thing happens is that your muscles get stronger, your edge shifts. And what was uncomfortable at 1 minute of holding is now a piece of cake. And now it's 1 minute and 30 seconds where your legs really start to shake and like incredible sweat breaks out, and then you exit the pose. But then, every time you do a posture and you hold a little bit longer, a little bit longer, a little bit longer, you're moving that edge. You're expanding the edge of your container of what you can hold space for. Mentally, the same thing is happening. Energetically, the same thing is happening. We're moving the walls of our mind, in a sense, so that what we can hold only gets greater and greater and greater. That's expansion. That's the purpose. That's one use of prana, of energy, is to expand outward. Spanda, creative. Spanda is excitable, spontaneous energy throughout the body. It's like another form of prana, I believe. Spanda. So it's this, we are meant to expand. We practice that on the mat where it's safe, and we ground it in the body so that the mind can remember, so that the body can remember. And then in the moments where you're with your significant other or that person that's difficult for you to be around, or your family member who you want to change a lot, you find that when you're with them, you want to fix them a lot. Now you're going to have the ability to reference the body and mind's memory of holding an asana for a long time without even thinking about it. Your mind's going to be like, this is really similar to the feeling I have when I'm on the mat. Right now with this person, I want to leave. That is a form of fixing, right? You with me? Is this making sense? I want to leave. I want to fix them. Or, okay, I don't want to leave. I want to interject with my wisdom that I believe will remedy the situation for them. And I'm going to get to why we don't really want to do that in just a moment too, an even bigger concept of why we don't want to fix people, okay? But let's just stick with what happens moment by moment in that moment. So you're at that crisis, that point of like, okay, I'm ready. And there's a decision to make. You're either going to sit there and continue to hold the space and let them find the wisdom for themselves, or you're going to interject, fix. Don't get me wrong. You're on this path. You'll read that person if they're ready and they want some energy. And you can also ask if you're not sure. Like, I know you're not asking for a fix right now, but something just came up. Are you interested in hearing anything? And then of course they're going to be like, well, sure. But you're asking permission to step in their life in a way that can potentially really alter the way they think. I mean, this yoga shit isn't light, right? There's some light touch stuff, but most of it's pretty heavy and transformative. Shout out to those of you that went on retreat with me. Like, we moved mountains with our words and our presence, didn't we? It was incredible. Oh my God, it was incredible. So like, we got to ask permission sometimes. So sometimes it's good. Ask permission. That'll make you feel good. It'll make you, you're not stealing from them, which I'll get to in just a moment. But the other choice is sit there and just listen, hold that space. And you're going to be in a position to do that more comfortably because you have created more space to actually hold. And when we say we have more space, you could think of it as like holding out your palms in front of you, like you have a tray, like a cafeteria tray on your hands, and you got the outside edge. That's the edge. Like, you can't obviously put anything on outside the tray; it'll fall, hit the ground. There's no space for it. But our tray can hold a lot of different things on it that are helpful. But also, we've got a little bit of space on the tray for other people's things, and that's fine because you also have some other space, right? Like the idea of growing our container is or you can think of it as a box if you like that better. Like, We are constantly expanding and expanding and expanding, expanding the size of that container so that not only can your life go in, but other people's things. And then there's just still space even more in between where like no one's things. It's like maybe like spirit, God's things, or it's just space. It's just space. And then every now and then, you energetically purge and you take your own things out of the box and you take other people's things out of the box because it's not needed any longer. You don't need to hold on to it any longer. And then we just have more space. Or it all stays in, but you just keep doing work and the walls of that container go even further. So this is why Hatha yoga, another reason why Hatha yoga and pranayama and nature and visualization techniques and your morning rituals are so important. What we're really doing there is pressing gently against our own walls. And what we're doing there is changing the blueprint, changing the story of ourselves. That is what needs to change first, you guys, not other people. Keep changing your story. Keep pushing against your own walls that say, I'm only this big. Push and expand against those, and you will find that the need to change other people decreases. There's a direct correlation there. As your energy expands, energy or walls or containers, that's synonymous in this story right now, was your story and your walls expand, you are not going to feel like someone's problems are a threat because you have the ability to hold space for it. Cognitively, there's room. Think of when you're juggling all these things, okay? Like when I look at, I'm going to take it back to a week before the retreat. I was setting up the tent in the backyard to make sure that it was good and sound, and I was decorating it to make sure I knew what was in it. I was also emailing last minute people that wanted to sign up for the retreat, also making sure that the retreat center was set up, working with Jackie to make sure she had enough food and everything was going off great with her, working with Brandon to make sure that he knew some of the things I needed his help with, making sure he had his supplies, making sure I had his supplies, starting to pack for the retreat. On top of that, emails about reminders, and then thinking ahead because I'm going to be gone for the weekend. So like, what other marketing things that I want to get out or need to get back to right away? Like a lot. Getting ready for that. And then actually like, what am I going to teach on retreat? So like there's so much that goes on the week before a retreat. It was quite stressful. I was at my max. So if any little thing comes in and pushes against that stress ball, what happens? You snap. I snap. Why? Because our container, we're maxed out. We have no space. We are cognitively congested, energetically congested. So any little thing comes in, even like hunger, right? You're gonna be like extra hangry because you're just so full. We do that all the time to ourselves. We have so many plates spinning in the air that one extra thing comes along and it seems like this huge deal. And you're like, oh my God, you blow up and you're just so pissed off. And you're like, how did that person, they can't see how busy I am. They can't see. And we just blame. When really it's us. We need to set in place the practices and the energy practices and the physical practices in order to keep opening up, especially when we have a lot going on. That is exactly the time to unroll the mat and to breathe and to see yourself expansive and to hold postures. Hold the posture. Static postures are so powerful, you guys. Hold the posture to the point that you want to exit and keep breathing and go beyond that anyhow. Get to the point where you're erupting with sweat and the body is shaking and you're in this sort of physical crisis. Now, not pain. Make sure that you're not in pain. I'm not advocating that you hurt yourself here. I'm assuming you're going to be wise and listen to your body. But if you're not in pain, you're just in discomfort, stay. Stay close to that fire. The friction of fire, the friction of discomfort will, as Deborah Adele says, both burn and bless you. Then when you're with that person or that family member that you want to change, you've already done the work to expand your containers. You've been blessed. You burned yourself and now you're blessed. And now you can be with that person and you're chill. You don't want to change them. You can just be with them as they are. And you know what happens when you're with someone who's with you as they are? Think of that. You know that person who's totally open. And they don't want to change you. How do you feel when you're in their presence? Pause this. Write that down if you're in a place to do that. How do you feel when you're in their presence? Of that someone who never wants to change you, who loves you unconditionally? How do you feel? Great, right? Like yourself? How empowering is that? Do you feel incredible after you're with that person? Do they add to your life's experience? Yeah, they do. You feel inspired. You feel great. You feel like something was given to you every time you're with them. And really what they're doing is just allowing you to be yourself, giving you space to just be. That unconditional love is what ultimately liberates us from our problems. They're giving you space to be yourself. And in turn, you grow. Space gives space. Energy feeds energy. It's no real big mystery that the space you create in yourself is going to be contagious because you're able to hold space for others and they can be themselves. They will hear themselves too. Now, on the other hand of this, we're not going to be able to fix everyone, right? We could do all the energy and space creating work in the world, and some people just are not going to change. And that's on us to just let go of that shit. Let go. It's not us. Like, who are you to suddenly like wear that crown of like, I will fix everyone. That's my job. You know, I don't know when you labeled yourself the fixer, but you need to do that inner child work, that healing, and get to that point and make sure that you are not obsessing over that and burning yourself out. Because it's important that you protect your energy too. So some people, they'll never, ever be on the path with you. They'll never be spiritual, and that's okay. They're not broken to begin with. I'm going to say that again. They're not broken to begin with. It's just that they don't fit your blueprint, and so you hate that and you want to fix it. Oh, guess what? That's on you. Maybe you got to change your blueprint. Why does it have to be that those people in your life have to be a certain way? Who gave you that idea? Who modeled for you when you're younger that that's how family has to be? That that's how siblings have to be? That that's how romance has to be? That that's how a significant other has to be? Can I just caveat here and just say that of course, if someone's about to hurt themselves, if someone's in imminent danger, that you will do the right thing. Of course, interject if someone's going to die or do something incredibly, incredibly harmful with their lives. Don't just sit back and be like, well, I don't want to steal life experiences from them. Like, interject, you guys. I'm talking about like, gosh, if they only could be vegetarian, you know, or man, I just need them to lose that weight to fit the blueprint of what I think my significant other should be, or fit the blueprint of what I think my child should be. That's the stuff I'm talking about, okay? So when we come in and we help, with air quotes here, help other people, what we're really doing is stealing life experiences from them. So if you can remember that they're not broken to begin with, and that everyone deserves to make their own mistakes, because that is ultimately the greatest teacher, and that you were the person that trusted them to make those mistakes and learn from them and grow, wow. There is an incredible loving relationship if I've ever heard of one. But it's going to take you doing work on yourself. It's going to take you getting to the mat, holding those static poses, breathing into it, feeling discomfort, and making space for that discomfort. Another great way, here's another tip on the mat on how you can practice this. Let's say you're lying down on your back and you just did a spinal twist on one side. And then you come up and you immediately are like, all right, I'm going to go do the other side, drop my knees to the other direction and balance it out. I encourage you to hold knees into the chest or let your legs go out straight before doing the other side. It's really incredible space to be in, where the body is desiring, where the mind is desiring reconciliation. There's like a, oh, come on, do the other side. I'm so out of balance. Come on. But if you instead just hold the space, be with it, and just watch that desire morph and change and all of its interesting energy, you'll see that there's words about the experience, but there's also just the experience without the words. I'm going to say that again a little differently. When you're in between a twist and you're lying there and you haven't done the other side, you're going to have a moment where the brain is saying, reconcile, balance it out. And those are the words about the experience. And those happen really quickly. They go away after some time if you stay with it. Then suddenly you'll realize and you'll pay attention to the body and the energy of being out of balance. The energy, the feeling of desiring to reconcile and to bring ease on both sides, both hemispheres, both sides of the body. And that's really a beautiful feeling. Hunger is another one. Hunger is so much fun to play with, or thirst. When you notice that you're hungry or thirsty, what you're noticing are the words about the experience, because the brain has stepped in and it's gone, hey, you're thirsty, go find some fucking water. But if you hold back for a second, create the space between the words and the action, hang back for a second, just chill for a second, you're going to start to feel what thirst feels like in the body without the words. And what you're going to notice is that it's sandpapery. For me, it's sandpapery. There's a little bit of heat there. And then I notice like maybe it drops down, there's feeling in the esophagus. And maybe even my stomach is rumbling, right? Especially if you're hungry. You're going to start to feel all the nuances in this entire universe in the body that otherwise, if we just responded as soon as the brain said hungry, thirsty, angry, tired, we're missing this entire multiverse of experience that is you. And so that's another reason, you guys, why creating space and just pump the brakes for a second. Pump the brakes before responding can really get you into a different, I keep using the word, but the space. Then we realize we have choice. And I'm going to end on that. When you create space inside of your body, we are presented with the beauty, the power of choice. We can go forward with the original thought, eat, or we might see the other choice, which is deal with the stress, which is the reason we want to eat in the first place. Who here eats when they're stressed? Or maybe it's, I want to have some alcohol, I want to drink that cocktail. There's the desire, pause, feel what that's like in the body. And we can then go, okay, yeah, actually, that's a really pure desire. I'm going to go have that cocktail right now. Or for me, it's mocktails because I'm obsessed with NA beverages right now. They're a lot of fun and freaking delicious. Or, oh my goodness, the desire to go drink right now has nothing to do with purely enjoying the drink. It has everything to do with me quelling my anger right now and my frustration. You know what? I think I've got better modalities of dealing with that. Or I'm face to face with my significant other, or I'm face to face with my sister or brother or my mom, my dad, and oop, there it comes, that desire to fix. You know what? Let me pump the brakes. Let me breathe into that. Let me give it some space. Okay, there go the words about it. What am I feeling? What does the feeling of fixing actually feel like? It's quite exceptional, I bet. I'm not going to assume that you're going to have your own subjective experience, but I bet you're going to find it's quite remarkable and beautiful. And then it's something you own. It's in you. And then you realize that you have some choice. And you can ask a beautiful question. Is there another way to be with this moment? Is there another way I can be with this moment? And then you might decide, no, purely, you know what? I've given this some space. I'm really arriving in this moment super conscientiously and aware. And I think purely I need to take action. It feels right. It's aligned with my highest yes. This falls back into our discernment. Yeah, here it is again, coming through discernment, discernment, discernment. Or because you gave it space, you realize, no, their behavior is reminding me of my sibling. Their behavior is reminding me of my alcoholic parent or whatever. I don't have alcoholic parents. I'm just saying. Like, you might discover because you gave your feelings some space that your desire to fix the person in front of you is because of someone else's shit or even your own. Oh my God, I want to fix them because I haven't fixed that in me yet. I hope that this served you greatly in some small way, some big way. It doesn't matter, just something. Take what you need, throw out the rest. And also, this is now in the Ethernet, so you can always come back to this forever and forever and forever whenever you need to remember the power of holding and creating space for yourself when it comes to working with loved ones and close people to you, including yourself. I love you guys so much, and I'm so thankful that you tuned in, and I will be with you soon. See you next time.